I had thought the only option really was to do network marketing. And what I kept finding in that was like, you're sharing somebody else's products, right? It's somebody else's passion, somebody else's purpose, right? But for me, it was like, I knew that it wasn't tapping into my gifts and what I was good and what I was passionate about. And so I really wanted to help other moms see that they could make money from home doing something that they were passionate about and, around their skills. So I did all sorts of different things, and it just kept coming back. And I think that's definitely a good indicator of a calling, is if it's something that keeps coming up and keeps coming back. And for me, it was just this idea of really helping moms start their business and, figure out something that they could offer online.
Welcome to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Miter. I'm here to help you unleash your strengths and get clarity on your calling. I believe when you find your purpose in life, fulfillment, joy, and success will follow. If you're ready, pop in those earbuds, hit that follow button, and join me on this journey toward discovering your calling. Welcome back, friends, to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Miter, and today we're going to have a great conversation with my new friend, somebody that I just started working with, Cami Langston, and she is the host of Mom, Start a Business, and the podcast and founder of Blessing Builder. She created an all-in-one marketing solution that includes strategy, software, and personal support to help purpose-driven women build a passive income business. She is on a mission to help moms build streamlined and automated businesses so they can be both profitable entrepreneurs and present mothers. And I love all of that, Cami. So welcome to the Discovering Your Calling podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. And I met Cami because I was looking for that all-in-one program. And I'll be honest, I'm just stepping into it now, but what I've seen has been amazing. And I know Cami is helping me solve a problem I was having. And that's one of the reasons why I invited her to be a guest on the show today, because in the Discovering Your Calling Academy, I talk about 4 core elements. And one of those core elements is called your mission. And to me, that mission, it's that problem that you see in the world that you look at and it's like, why has nobody else fixed this problem yet? And then you start to think, well, wait a minute, I can fix that problem. I feel called to solve this solution. And sometimes it's a global problem. Sometimes it's a household problem, a community problem, or a business problem. So Cami, you are solving 2 problems. One is helping moms create passive income so that they can be that present mom that we shared in your bio. And the other is helping people like myself that I'm excited about, the entrepreneurs and coaches, to have this all-in-one platform so that we're not spending a fortune and we're not trying to do, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. So I would love to just have you, start with your story and how you decided these were the problems that you felt called to solve. So I'll turn the mic to you and just share where it all started.
Yeah, for sure. We'll go back to the beginning. So I, before kiddos, was a high school math teacher, and I enjoyed it enough. I kind of ended up there. It wasn't necessarily something that I'd always wanted to do. But when I got pregnant, I knew that I just really did not want to have to go back to a job that I didn't love and have to put my kid in daycare. And when I did the math, I mean, teachers don't get paid a whole lot. And I am from Oklahoma. And so they really don't get paid a whole lot here. And so it just didn't really even make sense for me to go to work, and then pay for daycare. And so it really kind of started out as wanting to solve my own problem that, my husband really wasn't making enough for us to just live on his income. And so if I was going to quit my job, I needed to figure out a way to kind of make up the difference there. And so I really just kind of set out on a mission to figure out how can I make money from home? And this was 2016. So it looked a little bit different then. And really, in my mind, the only way, like the only option for like a stay-at-home mom to make money was network marketing. And so I was already in a network marketing company just because I loved getting discounts, for products that I liked. And so I decided to kind of go all in on that. So that's kind of what in my mind I was going to try and do. And because of that, really started diving into this online world because I didn't want to go and have like in-person parties because I was, had a baby at home and so was trying to figure out this whole like marketing on social media and having maybe a blog, and all these different things. And so I was learning it all for myself. And as I was in that world and in the network marketing world and connecting with other people that were in the same company that I was in this really large Facebook group with all of these distributors from this, one company. And the same question kind of kept coming up. And I was seeing that like all of these people were struggling with this one thing. And it was actually like they were struggling with the tech side of things and the more business side of the network marketing. They were good at like sharing the products and they loved the product, but they didn't really understand like, how do I use this piece of software to actually take payments, and all of that kind of stuff. And that was something that I was really good at. I, even in teaching, was the teacher that like really pushed for a class set of iPads, and we were doing, all sorts of online stuff. And so that was something that I knew that I could help with. And so I just, from what I was learning with the online marketing world and how that all worked was like, let me just put this idea out there and see, and maybe I could create some resources around it. And so I just put the idea out there into this Facebook group, and I ended up getting like 400 email addresses from one post in this Facebook group. And so it was like, okay, like people actually want this solution. And so I ended up creating a course kind of all around using different tech tools for your, this specific network marketing business. And that was kind of my first, thing in the whole online marketing world. And as soon as I launched it, it wasn't even created yet, right? Like I just kind of put the idea out there, ran this kind of little email launch, and I made like over $2,000. And it was like, that's like almost what I was getting paid as a teacher, in a month. And so I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like I can take something that I'm good at and enjoy doing and like help other people with it. And they actually paid me for it. And so immediately I knew that it was something that I wanted to teach other moms. I wanted other moms to know about because, like I said, I had thought the only option really was to do network marketing. And what I kept finding in that was like, you're sharing somebody else's products, right? It's somebody else's passion, somebody else's purpose, right? That you are then like tagging along with. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I have some friends that are uber successful and love doing network marketing. But for me, it was like, I knew that it wasn't tapping into my gifts and what I was good and what I was passionate about. And so I really wanted to help other moms, especially, see that there was another opportunity, another way that they could make money from home, doing something that they were passionate about and, around their skills. And so from then, it was a long journey of figuring out like what that really looked like and feeling like I was an imposter, like, who am I, to teach this, and lots of back and forth and, feeling like this is what I'm supposed to do. And then going like, I don't know about that, like, I don't want to put myself out there. And so I did all sorts of different things. And it just kept coming back. And I think that's definitely a good indicator of a calling, is if it's something that keeps coming up and keeps coming back. And for me, it was just this idea of really helping moms start their business and, figure out something that they could offer online. And so eventually I started the podcast and kind of launched and had a few different iterations of what my offering looked like and how I was helping moms do that. But when I was doing that, like I was, teaching moms kind of how to come up with their offer, how to do like their first, what I call a beta launch, where you do kind of that pre-sell, right? Like sell it before you actually create it. I would recommend tech tools that I was using, and kind of maybe give them an outline in a Google Doc of what their landing page, should have on it and all of that. But I couldn't actually do the tech or really solve that problem for them, right? They would have to go figure out the tech piece really on their own. I could guide them, but they would still have to do it. And I ended up I was looking for, again, a problem that I had. I have another business that's kind of a side gig to my side gig. That was just kind of a little passion project of I have a membership that helps moms remember to pray for their kids. So it sends out a daily text message with something for them, something specific to pray for their kids that day. And so I had a tech, I had a tool for sending messages, and I had a tool for the landing page, and I had tools for email, and all of these things that I was kind of piecing together. And I really wanted it to be very passive. Like I said, this was just a kind of a passion thing. And so I wanted to be able to spend the least amount of time on it as possible. And so I was in search of a tool that would kind of include all of those things and have the text messaging as a part of it. And that is when I came across High Level, which is the base of my software now. So it's, $1 billion company, like software that is an all-in-one and truly all-in-one, like has all of the different things. And the more I learned about it, I discovered that I could do what's called white label it. So essentially customize it and add in my own templates, add in my own training, add in my own support for my target audience, and then offer that to my, students. And so that's where Blessing Builder kind of came from, was this idea that I would be able to provide all of the tech that people need and put in the templates and all of the things that they need to do what I was teaching them to do. And so that's where we are now, is we've got Blessing Builder, and that has got kind of the training, inside, teaching how to do kind of that first beta launch and get everything set up, but then also has all of the tools to do that. And so that's where we're at now. And yeah, it's been a journey, and it all has kind of stemmed from, first kind of my own problem and trying to solve my own problem. And then through discovering, how to solve it for myself, then being able to solve it for other people, seeing that they have the same problem. So,
and I love so much of your journey, because it's, as I'm listening to you, it's like, yep, that step here, that's this step in my, in the thing, because as keep saying, usually your mission, what you end up doing stems from a problem you figured out how to solve. And then you look around and realize, like, wait a minute, I'm not the only one who has this problem. And now I have the tools, the wherewithal, the knowledge, the experience to help others solve this problem. And then the other thing I love in your story that is, I guess, the brave part, and it's the step that so many women I find are scared to take. And that's the step of just trying. Just try something. Throw it out there. Throw the idea out there, like you did in the Facebook community, where you had 400 people raise their hand and say, yes, I want that solution, right? And I need that help. And that's just that trial stage. And I feel like a lot of times we do have to just try and kind of throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, and not be so bound to it that if it doesn't work, we're not failures because we tried.
Yeah.
But if it does work, then pay attention. And as you shared, and I would like to dive a little deeper into that part of your story of where you share that, then you kind of like, you had this thing, but then you still went off because I've done that. I think we all do that. I don't know why we do that. Like I look back, it's like, why did I change? I should have just stayed the course. But we try these other things and it always comes back to what we're really supposed to be doing. So what was that like? Like what made you say like, oh, I just need to stick to this course a little deeper and I'll have my thing? What made you diverge off of the path a little bit?
Yeah. So what made me kind of step off was like I said, I had launched that course, like my first course for the distributors that were in that network marketing company. And I ended up launching it like one more time, kind of once I got it together. And I started to, obviously like get to know all of these other distributors in the company. And I was recognizing that it just wasn't lining up for me in that I saw that a lot of them were being encouraged to go into debt in order to get all of the product that they needed. And like they were all like really investing all of this money and time into this business and they weren't making any money. And it just didn't sit well with me to continue to promote, and for this business. And so I decided to shut that down. Now, what I probably should have done, hindsight 2020, right?
Hindsight's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, right. Is so just kind of open it up and change it from being specific for that one company and opening it up just for kind of all network marketing, because I had been a part of other network marketing companies that I loved and still use today, and all of that. But I just kind of kept taking detours. And then it was like, I had this idea that I really wanted to teach moms how to launch a course and do this, but I had closed my course down. And so I had this just kind of like block, of like, well, who am I? I'm not even doing it anymore. I don't have $1 million course business. I don't so who am I to teach this? And so a lot of it was just that feeling like I needed to be so far ahead to be able to really help those that were just a few steps behind me. And I think that's a huge thing that I always, talk to my students about, is that you only have to be a few steps ahead to be able to help those that are behind you, right? Like at my kids' school, they have, older elementary kids that come and help the kindergartners and read books, right? Like they're just a few steps ahead. They don't have to be have a doctorate in reading, be a reading specialist to help the kid learn to read, right? And so it's the same for us in our business or our, ministry or whatever. Like we need to have had some success and we need to be able to have the skills to help, but we don't have to be all the way down the road to be able to help those that are just right behind us. And I think it's very easy, especially in the world that we live in today, where like everything is on social media. There's so many gurus, and all the things that do have $1 million businesses or do have the millions of followers or do, and feel like, well, we're not at that level. So how could I still help somebody? And why would somebody choose me? But, I've had people that have worked with me and have told me like, I wanted to work with you because you are just a few steps ahead, right? Like you remember what it's like. You're still in the trenches. You're still in that, and versus, the big guru, right? And so I think it's all about kind of finding like where you can be different and how you can support those that are just a few steps behind. So I'm trying to remember what your question was. Oh yeah, about detour.
Yeah.
And then so I guess like what brought me back, it was just that like continual, like this kept coming up. And just a lot of mindset work, of around like, if this is what God has called me to do, like he typically calls the unqualified. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you look all throughout scripture,
we've been watching The Chosen. We're a little late to the game, but my husband and I have been like totally into The Chosen, and how it just really, I don't know if you've seen that, but how
I just started it actually like this week.
The life, how flawed the apostles were.
Right.
Like he really does.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Moses, you look at Abraham, you look at Noah, right? Like they were all not qualified for what God called them to do. And that's exactly the purpose. Like, because like, if I did have my master's in business and I did have this huge successful, right, then like I could put my success on me and my merit, right? Versus like, if this works out, right? Like, this is totally a God thing, right? Like, he's the one that has laid this path out for me. And so I think that's really the biggest thing, was just kind of realizing, like, who am I to say no? And like, no, I can't do that. Just kind of trusting that like God will equip, and remembering that even if I haven't like, achieve the success that I want, like I can still help those that are a few steps behind me. And yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a day by day thing. I mean,
Oh.
it's, I still have times when I'm like, who am I to be talking about this on a podcast, right? Or whatever.
Right.
But just kind of constantly coming back to that of
Yes. Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought this up, Cami, because I think that whole, whether we want to label it the imposter syndrome or self-doubt, that we all feel that when we're getting started. And I don't think it ever goes away.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because even if you are one of the higher ups, then they're comparing against somebody else or whatever. There's always going to be that. And maybe that is because, like you shared, if we get to that point that we are thinking, I guess we're all that in a bag of chips, that we are relying on ourselves and not, you and I would say God, helping us do this work. But I love too, because I think we can get so stuck in that, well, I can't do this until I have the certification. I have the degree. Well, I don't know all this. I haven't made six figures. I haven't done, we can look at all the things that we're not, instead of looking at why we are qualified to do this. And like you already said, it's about just being a couple of steps ahead of somebody else. So you can easily, reach down and grab their hand and bring them along with you, versus looking at like, I'm so far ahead of you, that you've got to catch up. But no, it's like, okay, I kind of have this figured out. Come along with me. We'll figure out some of this stuff together.
Yeah.
But I think I have some answers here that can help us in growing with people versus feeling like we have to have it all. Because if we thought that, I think 98% of us would never launch it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. One of my favorite kind of mottos, and I had it in my office for a long time, was done is better than perfect. And just this idea that, like, if you're waiting for things to be perfect, if you're trying to, like, it's never going to get done. It's like perfect doesn't exist. And so just putting things out there messy. And, I really think that business and really life in general is just a big science experiment, right? Like, we're just seeing what works and what doesn't, and do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And again, I think it's easy in our world to see all of the people out there that do already have kind of, quote unquote, that perfect website, or, that perfectly polished, YouTube video or whatever it is. But we didn't see their first one. Like, I don't know, one time, if you know who Rachel Hollis is.
Oh yeah.
At one point, I was like listening to her book several years ago, and she talked about how she actually has left all of her Instagram posts up, like from the very beginning. And so I went and I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and went all the way back. And it's hilarious. I mean, it's like, it made me feel so much better. It's like, so not good, like very cringeworthy. And that's okay. Like, we all start there. And the way we get better is by just continuing to do it. And not to say that that's easy. I mean, it's hard to put yourself out there. And, I remember when I was first starting in like network marketing stuff, it was kind of like when the Facebook Lives really started to started to happen. It first came out, and my mom and my sister were making fun of people that were doing Facebook Lives. They're like, oh my gosh, it's so cringy, like the whole, like, just doing this Facebook Live. And, they didn't know that, like, I was kind of planning like this whole business, online business, and doing those. And so literally when I first started doing like some Facebook lives, I blocked my mom and my sister from seeing it. Like, you can do that on Facebook.
Yeah.
So you can do things, you can block your family if you're like, what are they going to think? Or your high school friends, just block them. It's fine. If you don't like, that's okay. And so it does take just that, like, you know what? I care more about serving people, about reaching my goals than I do about what other people think of me. And again, that is a daily thing for me, but it's one step at a time and reminding myself of that. So,
and I think it's our family and friends that are the worst ones to show up because they know us one way.
Yes. Right.
And now we're trying to do something different.
Yes.
And it's not to say that we're not qualified to do that something different. It's just different than the way they've known us, and they know all our deep, dark secrets.
Right. So, exactly.
But again, not to turn this into a biblical lesson here, but we're watching The Chosen and we're in season 3, and Jesus just went back to his hometown and he was not
welcome
there.
Yeah. Right.
He was not welcome there. And he's like, I will never return here.
Yep.
He loves his mother, but he's like, I'm not coming back here because I'm not. They knew him one way and they didn't accept him. So even Jesus wasn't accepted. This new version of him.
Right. Because it's hard for people to see you differently. And so, and it is just kind of that like awkward, weird, you know what I mean? Like you've had this one dynamic. And so, I mean, it's just now, like a lot of times they do come around, right? Like, so I was saying my mom, my sister were like making fun of like the girls doing Facebook Lives. My sister now like wants me to help her start her own business, you know? So it normally comes around and they get it. It's just like, they don't get it, right? Like they don't get it in the beginning, and that's okay.
Right. And I did the same thing. I had learned how to do on Facebook, have the groups so that if I was doing, especially in the network marketing, if I was doing a live or something like that, it would only be seen by people who know me in that role, not my friends and family. Yeah, so they didn't see. And I think that's more for it is for us. So if you're listening and that's how you need to do things, then that's okay. Like just step into it. If thinking about your best friend or your mom or your sister watching you do something, then just don't, you don't have to unfriend them necessarily. You just hate them.
Yeah, exactly.
and find what works for you in that way that makes you more comfortable so that you will show up and try and test. And eventually they may be your sister, your raving fans, but whatever makes you feel comfortable so that you can get out there and, like you said, the science experiment of just trying things and see what feels good with you. The other thing you said, and I don't want to totally discount it because I think it's super, super, super important, was what you said with one of the reasons why you switched from working with that particular network marketing is, and into doing something else, of things not aligning with your personal values. And that's a piece that, I talk a lot about that too, when you're finding your calling, and it seems easy to dismiss, I think, but it's so, so, so important. And I think that's why so many women get frustrated in their careers or their businesses, because something's out of alignment with your core values. Anything else you would add to that piece of it and what that was like for you when you realized what was happening there?
Yeah, I think first, obviously, like it's important to know what your values are. So if you never have, taken time to really sit down and think through your values, I would definitely recommend doing that. It makes everything so much easier when you're thinking about what business to start or how should I be spending my time, or, especially even as a mom, in business. And that was really why I even wanted to target moms and help them start their business, because I kept seeing there were all of these business gurus and marketing gurus, a lot of them men, or they were women that didn't have kids, or they did have kids, but they started their business so that they could make $1 million and send their kids to daycare. It wasn't like a family focused thing. And so that was a big value to me, right? Is like, I was starting this so that I could be present. And So that was really important to me to include that, right, in my business. And that's why I even started it. But with the network marketing and all of that too, yeah, it just, I mean, it sounds, kind of, I guess, but it was just kind of like, it just didn't sit well. Right. Like it didn't really necessarily feel like, okay, this is wrong. This company is in the wrong. They're, like they need to be shut. It just didn't feel good to promote it. And when you are not 100% like on board with it and can really stand behind something, then you're not going to promote it, right? You're not going to put it out there. And so your business is not going to grow, right? Like, so you've got to be like all in and passionate about it. And so if there's something that's holding you back from that, then like it's not going to work. Right. And I kind of even have the same issue. At one point I was doing more like web design and things like that and like setting up websites. And it kind of got to the point too, where it's like, I knew like people don't need these websites. Like this is not what you need, like to start your business or, and so even that just felt kind of off because it was like, I couldn't 100% get behind, like, you need a website and like to market myself because it was like the people I was doing websites for truly didn't need a website. Like they did not need to be paying me, hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to do this when like they just needed to go like make an offer, so it's just like, I think it's important to know your values and just pay attention to like how you feel in it. If you find yourself holding back in something, like ask yourself why. And it could be that something is just not aligned with your values there.
And I love what you shared there because I think that's the case is like so many times we know something's like off. And we know maybe it's the pit in the stomach, maybe it's the angst, maybe it's just like, oh, I don't really want to do this. But it's hard sometimes to pinpoint why do we feel this way? And being out of alignment with our values is one of the things it could be.
Right.
And as you shared, just knowing our values so that we can recognize quicker. And it doesn't always happen. It's as we shared before, it's so easy to look back and realize like, oh, that's why that didn't fit.
Right.
But when you're in it,
yeah,
and you're doing it and you're having those feelings, it's hard to sometimes see what's really going on behind the scenes or inside our bodies, really, right. Is what it is. Yeah. Of why it feels kind of off. But, if you are listening to our conversation right now, and maybe you've recently started a business and you're having these feelings of like, I don't know if this is right, but you don't know why, spend some time with that, sit with that and see if maybe that is the thing, because I've been there as well, Cami, like that. Definitely. I totally recognize that, oh yeah, that's why a couple of different businesses I've tried to start didn't work because I realized like, no, this isn't what I really believe in. This isn't who I really want to work with.
Right. Yeah. I think that it's easy again to see what everybody else is doing, right? And to maybe take the course that teaches you a certain process. And so you're trying to do what, other people are doing or they're telling you to do. But I think it's important to always check in and think about what you want. One of the first exercises that I always have people do when I'm working with them is to really think through their why, right? Like, why are you doing this? And really do that like 5 layers deep, like you start where it's like, okay, why do I want to start a business? And then it's like, okay, but why, and just keep going. And that's a really great exercise to get to kind of the root of it and always run things through that, and is what I'm wanting to do going to line up with that? And just envisioning like, what is the life that you want, right? If somebody is telling you that, in order to start your business, you've got to do, this intense like 2-week launch where you're going to go live every day and you're going to send out 10 emails and you've got it, then, but you're like, but I have a 5-month-old. So, like, how's that going to work? Then that doesn't line up, right? If it's important to you to like put your family first, then spending 12 hours a day working on your business isn't going to work, right? And so I think it's just important to find mentors that are doing things the way that you want to do them, and know, again, like going back to know your values, know why you're doing this in the first place, know what you want your life to look like, and run everything through that, and be okay with the fact that your timeline might be slower, your timeline might look different from others, but as long as you are staying true to, what's important to you, then that's okay.
Right. And that's one of the things I loved when I was looking at some of your information, and one of your promises, should we say, on the course for the moms to have passive income is to make your first 1,000.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's not make your first 6,000 or 6-figure or 7-figure. Now they're talking like, learn how to just make 1,000 and then your next 1,000.
Right.
It's just, you got to start somewhere. And from, the moms we're talking to, like, just start there. Quit looking at all the huge things and fighting that, like, oh, do I need to make this or that, or do this or that? Or like you said, work 12 hours to launch. It's like, figure out that space, be okay with starting and just starting and making some money. Like that first time somebody pays you anything should be exciting.
Right.
So I really that just hit my heart. Well, like, I love that, because in a world where, like I said, everybody else is shouting from the rooftops to have your high figure, course and do this and do that. It's like, let's just start. Let's just figure it out and go.
Yeah, right. I think it's easy to like see everybody else's and like they've been doing this for years. And I think it's easy for those people, like those gurus, right, to forget that like $1,000 is a lot of money to most of the world, right? Like, I know that they might make that before breakfast,
right?
But like every day, you know what I mean? But that's a lot of money, especially to a stay-at-home mom. Like that can pay for a private school, that can pay your grocery bill, that can pay for, add it up and pay for a Disney trip. It'll take a few of those thousands, but like not everybody is out to start and make a multi-million-dollar business. I think even, with your audience, like you've talked about a lot of times, like they're in another job. Maybe it's just finding kind of a passion project that could maybe bring them in $1,000 a month, right? And just bring in kind of that extra money that is around their passion and gives them something that they can do and really use their gifts. Maybe if they're in a job that doesn't allow for that, and that's okay. Like we don't all have to build $1 million businesses. Like that's not, that's not the goal for everybody. And so I want to make that clear.
Right. And a lot of times that 1,000 can fill the gap between you working your career job and now making that transition to be able to be a work from home mom.
Yeah. For me, it was really exactly about 1,000. When I did the math, it was like what I would have been bringing in versus childcare, really the difference was about $1,000. And so it was like, if I can figure out a way to make $1,000 from home, then it's worth it for me to stay home. Right. And get to be home with my kiddo. And so.
Right. You already mentioned a little bit about I want to kind of transition to the Blessing Builder, and you talked a lot about what it is. Who would you say, because we talked about and what do you call your course for how to help moms make the
So right now, the way it's set up is it's called the Mom Start Method. And so it really kind of walks through those very beginning stages, those 4 steps to make your first $1,000, from your digital course or membership or, online program. And so right now that is inside of Blessing Builder. I might be pulling it out soon it'll still be in there, but like to offer it by itself outside of Blessing Builder. It was kind of a mentorship program. And then I decided to kind of really focus on Blessing Builder right now. So it's in there. So anybody that joins gets access to that too. But yeah, so there's training inside of Blessing Builder, but then, at its core, it's an all-in-one software. Yeah.
And who should be looking at that?
Yeah. So
the Blessing Builder,
really, I say this, honestly, anybody that wants to market their business online, it has the tools to help them do that. Now, my target audience, right? Like who I normally speak to, right, is the mostly mom who is looking for a way to, launch their business, to grow their business. Like they want to have some sort of business online around their skills, their passions, and they just need help actually taking their dreams, their vision, and like making it a reality online. Because it's easy, like we could have these big visions of what we want it to look like, but then you get into the tech and you're like, oh, okay, so how do I actually do this? And what tools do I need? And, what needs to go where and all of that. And so that's really kind of my mission, my goal with it is like really just to help. And again, especially women is kind of who, I target. I've helped men before. They're fine. You're okay, dudes.
Yeah.
I prefer to work with women. Of just kind of taking those business dreams and making them a reality, like giving you the practical tools to set up that, landing page for your freebie that you want to offer, or, set up your course and the community that you want to have. Think about, okay, how can we, create a funnel where people listen to your podcast and then we send them to this page and then they're going to get these emails that market your course. And then they're going to, like just really thinking through what that looks like and setting it all up. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
What I like about it too, is it really is, I feel like it's a grow with you. Like I wish I knew about this 5 years ago.
Yes.
Because I was one of those people that paid a lot of money to have a beautiful website created that now is obsolete.
Right.
So you're so right. You don't need a beautiful website when you're first starting.
Yeah, for sure. I love that point of like something that can grow with you. And I always kind of mention that too. Like when I'm talking to people that are just starting out, when I first started out, I was trying to use all of the free or least expensive tools that I could and piece them all together. And it worked. Now I'm a techie person, like that is kind of my specialty. So I was able to kind of figure it out and like piece things together. But it was like anytime that I needed to change something, or you have more members, right? And then you've got to figure out, okay, well now I can't use this. I've like outgrown this, right? Like I would have to go up to this next level and start paying a lot more, or all of these different things. It can just get really overwhelming. And so I love that the Blessing Builder like is unlimited in everything. And so you can come in and like just set up one course and have 10 students if you want to, or you can have, 100 courses and 10,000 students. And it's fine. Either one's fine. And you can use just some of the tools. And then when you, let's say like you don't want to start out with sending text messaging and, all of that, you don't have to. But when you're ready to, it's there. It's available. You don't need to go find another tool. You can just say, okay, Cami, I'm ready to start texting people. What do I need to do? Yes. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And that right there, what you just said is one of the best parts about it. They get you.
Yeah.
And Cami's there to help guide you, because it is, if you're not tech savvy, that's me. And just to have somebody help like sort it through it and make it, simplify it down.
Yeah.
Because any of those things could be very overwhelming for me. And I love that you took the time to like, no, let's just start here. You can kind of guide me. And I know I'll be calling on you a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Really diving
I think
into
especially,
it, but I'm excited too.
Yeah. With tech, I think a lot of times you're either like having to search through like help articles, or, that kind of explain it, but is not exactly what you're trying to do. Or you're having to chat with somebody that is in another country that doesn't, like understand what you're trying to do. Or if even that, right. Or like you're like emailing and having to wait days for a response and things like that. And so for sure it's important to me to be able to provide support and help people figure out, not just like, okay, how do I send an email? Like I'll teach you that, but also think through like, okay, I'm wanting to run a 5-day challenge. What do I need? You know what I mean? Like, and thinking through like the big picture of it too, not just like the little, tech pieces, but like kind of the big picture marketing strategy of it too.
Which I love. Yeah. Having a strategic partner,
Yeah.
Not just a tech person, IT
Right.
person. So,
yeah.
So we have talked about so much today.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for it. And again, as if you're listening to this podcast, as I usually almost always say at the end of an interview, pick the pieces that are relevant to you today. Maybe you're in that place like Cami was as a teacher of just like, I know I don't want to keep doing this. What else could I do? Maybe you're in that spot that you've tried something and it's just not aligning and you don't know why. Take the part of like, look at your values, look at your mission, is it aligning with that? Or maybe you're ready to launch something, then definitely take a look at, Cami's program and the Blessing Builder and dive into that. And if you have absolutely no idea, reach out to Cami, reach out to me. We are both gifted in helping you figure out, like, start doing something, and we'll help you find that passion, that mission that you're on. So you can start using all of your gifts and talents to create something. But know that no matter what stage you're at, there are people there to help you along the line. And that there's also somebody waiting for you to start. There's somebody behind you that's waiting for you to start whatever it is that you're called to start, because they need you to lead the way so you can help them. Yeah. So Cami, I just thank you for using your gifts and talents and being brave enough to step into your calling and create these programs to help other moms really keep their priorities, the way they want to and that they feel called to do right now in the season of their life. So thank you for being brave enough to do this and to step into it and to keep iterating how you needed to. So that landed you here. So I think the best is yet to come for you and Blessing Builder.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I love getting to do these interviews because I think it helps me even pull out what is important and what are the themes, what are the values and the passions that keep coming up. And so that's a great tip too, of like, if you're like, I don't know, one of the things, and I even have this, and I'll mention, I do have a workbook called Create Your Niche. And so it kind of just helps you think through like, what are the different things that you could offer and, what are your skills and your passions and all of that. But one of the questions is like, what do you always have to give your 2 cents on? Like what topic, that like, if somebody starts talking about it, you have to like jump in and like, here's my opinion. That's a good clue. But like, having those conversations and talking it out with other people, I think is really helpful. And then I also wanted to touch on, you said there's people waiting on you. And like I said, I have a little, it's like right here on my desk. This is why I'm pointing and looking this way, like a little letter board. And it used to say done is better than perfect, but it now says it's not about me. And I think it's such a good reminder that yes, your business is in a sense for you and your family, but when we can take the focus off of us and put it on the person that we can serve, it really does change things, and when you are feeling like, oh, I'm too nervous to, go live or to put my offer out there, just really like, again, trying to take the focus off of you and focus on who it is you can serve. And if you're okay with it, I know we're like, we're up on time. One of my mentors, one of the stories that he always shares are metaphors, which is so good, is if you are standing on the beach, right? And you look out, you see just like beautiful beach, but then you see somebody that's waving their arms and screaming, help, help, right? Like they're drowning. Do they care if you come out there, either just run out and get them? Do they care if you bring a beautiful sailboat? Do they care if you bring a rowboat? No, like they don't care how you come to help them and save them. It doesn't have to be a beautiful ship. It doesn't have to be, they just need help. and they don't care how it comes. It doesn't have to be polished. They just need help. And so I think it's just remembering that of it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be, this big fancy thing. If you can help somebody, then help them. Right. You wouldn't be like, hold on, let me go shine my boat,
Right.
before I come get you. Right. Like you just go.
Right.
And so I think if we can keep that mentality, like it helps us be brave and take those steps, recognizing that it's not about us.
I love that. Well, Cami, thank you for being on the show. And we will have a link for your offer to help find the niche in the
Perfect.
show notes. And also what's the best place to find you?
Yeah. Instagram is probably the best. And I have a newer account that I'm trying to start that is at Mom Start a Business. So just all one word, Mom Start a Business on Instagram. You can find me there. And then, that workbook is just momstartabusiness.com/niche. And you can find that there. And then more information on Blessing Builder is just blessingbuilder.io. Or it's all linked in my bio on Instagram. So
Awesome.
You can find it all.
Awesome. And again, we will have all of that in the show notes. So thank you again for sharing your story and being a blessing to others.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending this time with me. My hope is something you heard today inspires you to take action toward discovering your calling. I just have 2 favors to ask of you before you go. 1, if you found value and enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you might hear your review read on a future episode. And 2, can you share this episode with 3 friends who will also enjoy it as much as you did? By doing these things, you will help us grow the podcast to make a bigger impact on the world. And until next week, remember, you've been created to live a life of fulfillment, freedom, purpose, success, and joy.